It's often not about the visual look or the aesthetic, it's often about the idea and the process behind it to understand the world. We're kind of like getting data of all kind and try to use that to create something new. So we don't start with a concrete image in mind, but with an idea, and then often things happen that were a little bit unexpected. Sound starts to become a color, or a movement starts to become a shape and things like that. And that, as said, creates something that we haven't really thought of in the first place. And that's, yeah, where the special moment happens. And when it comes to movement, then I think dance is probably the most poetic kind of movement. While with Collide, we tried to kind of like not make it too obvious. So it was more about what happens around the body. What does a space look like that is going to be created out of movement? We decided to not work with a choreographer, but kind of become a choreographer ourselves by looking at a lot of motion databases. And then we kind of like selected and picked them. We arranged them the way that we kind of like wanted them to happen inside of that empty void that we created. And therefore, we started to form that performance out of the different data sets that we had. Technology always had an important impact on our work in general, and the interaction between the human and technology. Where does inspiration come from, or how do dancers and performers get inspired, and what kind of stimuli could be used to get to an unknown result? It was not only about being able to use that already existing dance data, but also to turn that into a visual aesthetic and loading those different motion captures to kind of like see where it ended up. That rough approach that we believed could lead to something interesting worked quite well. We came to a point where we were really satisfied with what we had quite quickly. What we're focusing on at Onformative is quite experimental and collaborative, where we kind of like team up with other people from different disciplines to create new visual aesthetics. Yeah, there's not many places in the world where there's such a creative scene of like-minded people working in the fields of digital art. Berlin was definitely the place to be for us at that time, and still is. But it also helps us as a studio because there are so many good people we can actually work with. The collaboration with Kling Klang Kong was a really interesting one. We have been working with them quite often in the past, and they have a similar approach. They really think about the process behind it. We had a recording session together with them where we had 3 cello players invited, and we recorded 3D sound of those cello players while they were actually looking at the visuals. And that material was then used to arrange the final piece and we placed these sound samples in 3D space to make sure that they align with the visuals that we had created. When we usually think about sound, it's mostly like one-dimensional. It's kind of, you have that screen in front of you and the sound comes from the left, from the right, but that's it. But with Dolby Atmos, we had the chance to kind of like really pick specific sound samples that were kind of like representing specific movements and make them move alongside the visuals through the space. And when you're standing there in front of the screen, you really have the kind of like feeling that things are kind of like passing by, and it immerses you even more in the experience.